Hey, right there, I'm hoping you guys can help me out with something. I'm doing some preparation right now for an event we're running in a month's time, so this is going to be November 2023 when the event's happening. It's called The Ethics of Gatekeeping, and it's a panel discussion event where we kind of got various different people just talking about it and really just kind of starting this conversation about gatekeeping and what people can do about it. But in one sense, it's not going to be a definitive word about gatekeeping, so as I say, it's going to be starting this kind of discussion and this dialogue. So, you know, if you're watching this video in 2025 or something, then please do feel free still to put your comments in here. I will still be watching it probably, provided I'm still around. But basically, I've got 4 questions which I've been putting out there to lots of different people. So housing officers, stakeholders, you know, social workers, voluntary sector workers, the charity, you know, rough sleeper outreach teams, domestic abuse services, those sorts of organisations, and lots of people who've been gatekept themselves. And I'm just trying to understand fully the different perspectives on gatekeeping that are out there. Because, you know, there's this massive tension. You know, housing officers are under ridiculous pressure to gatekeep in many different ways. I'm not saying every council, but it seems to be that most councils are affected by it. And, you know, and the other tension pulling the other way is just people who are actually affected by it in terms of being homeless and being left homeless. So incredibly important stuff that's kind of being said within my initial, you know, kind of reaching out to people. But I'm just looking to open it up to the people who watch this YouTube channel just to see what you think. So I've got 4 questions. You can either stick it into the comment section of this video, or if you want to keep anonymous, if you go on my Facebook page, say my Facebook page, the Homelessness Best Practice Facebook page, and just send it as a private message. I'm not saying we're going to get back to everyone, but if you're saying interesting stuff, we probably will come back to you just for further clarification or further discussion to explore things further. Keep it civil, you know, certainly don't be insulting each other. If you want to insult me, that's fine, but do try to make it coherent, otherwise I won't listen to you. So if you've got a position where you think actually, you know, I'm totally wrong about something, then, you know, you're going to have to put some sort of coherent argument together for me to listen to you. So the 4 questions are, number 1, what more can individual housing officers do about gatekeeping? So in my experience, most housing officers do the job because they want to help people, and they are specifically and explicitly pressurised into gatekeeping, or certainly implicitly, let's say. There simply isn't enough temporary accommodation available, there simply isn't resources available, so they're in this position where they just don't have the resources available to actually house everyone they should be under the law. So that's the first question, and with that, I guess the opinions I've had so far vary from, you know, what else can be done about it, what can housing officers do about it. They don't have a magic wand to kind of make everything better, and through to people who've been homeless who tend to be pretty outraged that this is all happening and how, you know, very personal kind of things have gone wrong for them and they've been left homeless, and obviously they're kind of carrying that emotion with them. So I'm looking for, you know, all different perspectives. I also realise that there's 1 or 2 housing officers which are pretty sadistic in my experience, but they are very much the minority, and I don't anticipate those are the ones who are going to be getting back to me about this. But I'm just really kind of interested to see how do we think housing officers make sense of it, and if you're a housing officer, how do you make sense of that you know, that burden that's on you to try to follow the law when you just don't have the tools and the resources to do it. So that's question 1. What more can housing officers do about the issue? And I guess with that, teams as well. So in one sense, they're individuals, but obviously teams are often realising that they're in pressure. They'll have little discreet conversations in the, you know, in the coffee place or whatever about the situation they're in. I mean, Tower Hamlets housing team recently wrote an open letter to the Chief Executive Council just saying it's all broken, which I think was a real admirable thing. But I guess, yeah, kind of, you know, how do individuals and how do teams respond to this kind of pressure that's on them? So that's number 1. Number 2, what more can councils as a whole do about this? So wider than housing teams, obviously you've got, you know, other frontline workers like social workers who will probably be aware that gatekeeping is happening, and in fact there may well be that their own clients are the ones who are being gatekept from the assistance that's owed to them under the Housing Act. So what can those workers do about it? What can the hierarchy within housing do about it? So, you know, middle management up to, you know, kind of service directors and so on, chief execs. So what can they be doing about this, given that they've got a million plates to spin and you know, budgets are ridiculous already and have been for a decade or so in terms of cuts and all that sort of stuff which they're having to deal with. So what can they do about gatekeeping? How do they work out what to prioritise? You know, how do they kind of deal with the pragmatic side of homelessness, which actually means that it often costs the councils a whole lot of money? And also, what can elected members do? So, you know, your councillors, your portfolio holders, your committees, all those sorts of things. What can councillors be doing about gatekeeping and, you know, and the kind of the related kind of resource issues that go with it and the harm that kind of it causes? So that's number 2. Number 3, what can your average voluntary sector worker, so your charity worker, you know, your outreach worker or something, where, you know, you are told to tell homeless people to go and sleep rough before you can help them. whereas often they'll actually be owed a duty the same day to be housed. So what can they be doing about it? And I say that specifically because in my casework I often get professionals come to me and say, look Mike, something real bad's happened, clearly my client's been really badly gate kept here, but I can't complain because my service is likely to get the chop in terms of funding. So what can they be doing about it? And also more widely, what can members of the public be doing about it? What can your super providers be doing about it? And what can your average voter be doing about it? Even if they even know about it, and if they even believe that this is happening in their country, because I think that's often with a lot of people I speak to who've got no experience of the sector. Yeah, they kind of look at me strange when I say that councils are breaking the law every day and leaving people homeless when there's actually a duty to house them. So what can they be doing? And then finally, number 4, and sorry, with number 3 as well, I'd probably just want to say something about organising. So, there's some really good examples of organising around the country. Citizens UK is a really good example. There's organisations like Housing Action in Southwark and Lambeth which do some really good stuff about getting people who've been homeless together to have a collective voice, which can actually go a very long way. So I want to kind of just mention that, just to sort of get people thinking about that as well. And then number 4, are there solutions to gatekeeping and the kind of the wider related field that you think haven't been explored yet or aren't being put into practice yet? So, there's a lot of ideas around, there's lots of different approaches. I'm aware that a lot of approaches that the housing or the homelessness sector goes on about doesn't necessarily solve gatekeeping. So there's a lot of focus on psychologically informed environments and housing first, which maybe is part of the solution around gatekeeping. But there's that kind of stuff. So what else is out there that could be done? And I'm thinking really kind of out of the box here. So what is the planning department of the council got to do with homelessness? Because how are they kind of making sure the right types of housing is available for people in their area? Through to media, all those kind of things that might be part of that solution to actually start tackling gatekeeping. And I'm not in any way thinking it's going to magically stop next year. It's taken a few decades to get to this point, and it's probably going to take us a few decades to get out of it. But certainly it seems to me that we've all got some kind of role to play in ending, or starting to end gatekeeping. So those are the questions, 4 questions. I'll probably write them down as well so you've got them. As I say, really kind of interested to see what people think. We may well kind of use some of the quotes anonymously within the event that we do, so I can't promise that, but I can promise it'll be anonymous, but I won't obviously use all quotes. But yeah, just be really interested to see what people think. As I say, I've got some really interesting responses back from the people I've already asked, and I would imagine that you guys are going to be able to provide a real kind of breadth and depth of ideas as well. So yeah, really appreciate it. Stick it in the comments. As I say, if you want to do it anonymously, go to our Facebook page, Homelessness Best Practice, and just send a message and we'll pick it up that way.